Hey guys, Ben Lavin here, and we are live. We're going to do what may be our last show. And if you hear an echoey sound, the studio that we're usually in that doesn't have this it's we're, it's the power went up here. So now I'm here thinking, and I'm with Henry. Henry, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Ben. So optimistic today. What happened in Quebec? All the announcements that schools happening for all elementary and secondary students in Quebec, mandatory. You have to go. They have a few different modifications, but nothing serious. And it's just very hopeful. We talk about hope and how that helps our mental health, and I'm very excited about it. I think it's just every week it gets better. The other thing that I think is happening is people are just going back to normal. We've talked about this before as far as just getting out there for many people. Some still can't, but the statistics, thankfully, in Quebec, they've read the statistics. We talk about the government site, and it's exciting. Children are being back and active, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people out and active, and that's pretty exciting. I was just out for a run earlier and saw a baseball field, and there was what seemed to be a team getting back together, playing, and they looked like it looked like kids having fun again. So that was really good.
One of the things I'm worried about a little bit, some of the statistics that are coming out now on other things that have happened. For example, in BC, there's supposedly 170 people unfortunately lost their life to COVID, but over 400 during that time period to addictions. So we have this clear things are happening, and I hope we just don't stop thinking that these are also priorities as we get excited about moving on, and those of us who are fortunate and don't have those burdens. But we still have to remember that we have these other issues going on, and even the SARS, I saw some science today about what happened after SARS. Anxiety continued to go up and some depression, and SARS certainly wasn't like this as far as shutting down people. So we have a way to go, but there's some hope, I think.
Now, locally, I've seen that there's been more overdoses that I've heard, that I've read. I see it more when I'm reading through the social media. Um, are we going to see more of that?
Well, I'm not sure, Ben. I think the mental health side is still a concern. I think it always is, but it's even more of a concern now. And I think there's been some suggestion. I've read more and more about alcohol as as another issue that's happening. How many people self-medicated during this time. Alcohol sales went up, consumption rates went up. And so we have to be careful about all of that. And I think we can't, when we go back, we get excited when they tell us, oh, we can hang out with 10 people. We all get excited about that. But that's great. There still is an underlying thing we have to continue to take care of each other. And I'm hoping that we don't forget about that because many people are just wanting to get out, but there's still a segment of our population that have high anxiety, can't do that, and depression, and they need assistance. And I think that's something we have to focus on too.
I think this COVID-19 impacted people differently, but I think that most of us are just frustrated. What can people do that are frustrated?
Well, yeah, the biggest thing you can do is start taking control of the situation, start taking control of what you can do for your own self. Try not to listen to too much news. There's an interesting survey that came out today about among Canadians, and social media like Facebook, just talking back and forth, was considered very low on the connection network for people. So don't think that connecting with people when you isn't important. Just face to face. We've gotten into a lot of technology. Also said that some of this technology, for example, people working from home, isn't as popular for mental health because you need to connect with people. You need to talk. So don't be afraid to reach out and start talking to people again and get more connected that way. Also, be hopeful for the information that you hear. The Quebec thing, really got me excited because here's people who finally read statistics, finally said, here's common sense. Children are going to die from COVID, according to the federal government. So why are we restricting children? And they also, today, the Quebec experts said they're poor carriers of COVID. So if that's true, and we're led to believe it is from these experts, then it gives us all hope that, we can move forward soon.
Yeah, we all need some positive news. I hope people, I know this is I have a different setup today than I usually do. In regards to addiction and that, 5 that I know in 2020, one being a family member, very sad. I don't like to hear that. Sorry about the loss.
See, the thing that's always scared me a lot about the current addictions is that you don't have to use a lot of the current medications to become addicted. The idea, back when I was younger, they talked about gateway drugs, and people would, that was the big argument about marijuana. They would say, well, if you smoke pot, then you're going to start using this, and then you'll get to that. But nowadays, I mean, you can have one experience with some of these narcotics and become addicted. It's a very neurologically based thing, and I think we need to understand that, you know, years ago people talked about other factors, but seems to be a very neurological, biochemical kind of thing that immediately has an impact on certain people. And I think we really do need to provide the care and treatment that these people need, because that's, it's a devastating, as we see, a devastating illness, and under stress, it causes more of a catastrophe to families and all the people connected, as Carrie Lynn's talking about there.
What can people do to know somebody that needs help? Is there a step that they can take, a number they can call, or?
Well, we've all had version. Many of us have had it in our families, and I think it's frustrating when you start calling as a citizen. I've had to call looking for treatment for people, because as a citizen, we're very limited. I mean, as far as where can you go? So if a person, maybe we ask the people out there, because we have not been very successful other than, expensive private facilities on different parts of Ontario. And if you're part of a profession, they may have a special treatment facility for you to go to. There's one in Sault Ste. Marie for first responders, and there's different places you can go, but we do not have a lot of treatment programs here. Harm reduction is sort of the what people talk about, but if I were a user and said, okay, I need to stop, or I'm encouraged to stop, whether that be by my family, myself, or the police, how do I get that treatment? I don't really have an answer, and that's, for me as a provider, very frustrating. I think we need to put less funding into the criminalization of some of these illnesses and more into treatment, and they should be obviously publicly run, and they should be high quality, and we should realize that if you want to talk money, the payback for saving someone from this is tremendous, not just the life and the compassion of taking care of people. So I think as a priority, it just has never, I know I brought it up a couple times a few years ago, and there's great deal been talked about harm reduction, which I understand. I'm not a big fan, because I think we need treatment. We need to help people get better if they want to be. And I think I don't have an answer, Ben, sorry. I should have just said I don't have an answer when you started, because it's frustrating, and it's the same for other addictions, but this one in particular.
Now, with the summer coming and the beaches kind of being open, and I believe the fields you're allowed to play with, how important is it for parents and kids really to get back out and doing things and trying to take that step? Some are going to obviously be hesitant, but what can they do to kind of get outside?
Well, I think, striving to get back to normal is what we all hope for. What does normal mean, right? And normal mean, and you think of the clock ticking on the summer, we only have like 2 months left, right? Right. And so I see a real pent up demand for people. But I think with your children, I think, not to be disrespectful, but many people want to be away from their children for a while. I don't know, Ben. I just think, you need to, if you can do a high five with a relative or a trusted neighbor and get some time away from your children, it might be helpful. And then take them to the beach, because we realize that, today I was talking, as a citizen with somebody about, being a single mom or dad at home with your children and nobody to support you so you can get some time away, particularly if they're very young children, 2, 3, 4 years of age. You need to get some mental health for yourself, and I think we need to really focus on that. But sure, get as much activity, get out if you can. If your children are having trouble, I think some of the statistics, if you can sort of put them in a language they understand, say, children who do get sick do not lose their life to COVID. We haven't had one in Canada in our entire country, which I still find incredible. I actually have the stats today, but Ben, you want to hear the stats today? Because I look at this all the time.
I want to hear it.
It's a federal government site. 19 or under, as of today, there were 21 who had to go to the ICU and 0 deaths. Age 20 to 39, there were 162 in total since we started, had to go to ICU. There were unfortunately 23 deaths. And 40 to 59 years of age, there were 595 in ICU and 220 deaths. So a total of 243 deaths for all of Canada for people under the age of 59. So when I hear that, my brain kind of goes, I know the risk, right? If I go out, I'm 63, so I'm kind of jumping on that 59 age group. I'm hoping the treadmill gets me down a couple of years. But the point of all that is, it's a horrible illness if you get it. And the other good news today is they found out there's a certain steroid medication they can give people on ventilation systems, and it saves more lives. So they're saying that even if you're in the worst state, and you take this approved medication that's used for other, I guess, other ailments, and it's not like the one they just took off the market. This one, apparently, they just did a research study and said it. And they've been using it. Doctors have been using it for people with great success. So there's that hope too. So those statistics help me. And as a parent, I think you need to look at statistics. The federal government publishes it every day. They tell you all the statistics. They don't give us enough information on, for example, the 21 people who were children who were in the ICU. We don't know anything about their condition. Did they have a pre-existing? Were they having some other illness? Because as a parent, we want to know that. And then for ourselves, we want to know the other people who are at risk so we can be safe as well. And the more information, when you talk about frustration and anxiety about this, the more information you have, and now we have 3 months history to be able to talk about. So this is pretty clear. I mean, when Quebec sends 100,000 children back to school, and there's 52 who are test positive, and no one goes to the hospital, I think that tells us something. Do you think, Ben? What do you think?
I'm with you. I think the more kind of positive, or the less tragedy, the more positive people are. Let's see here. Turned my backyard into my new hiding spot. It's nice in the shade. The kids have kids pool. They play catch, practice pitching, and bunting. That will be our places to be for the summer. I see a lot of people building their own oasis in their backyards now.
I love that, and I think that's something we probably ignored. We always thought we had to leave or travel. I'm thinking of maybe doing a travel trip if we're ever allowed to go across provincial borders, because the flying thing scares me. If you get a high temperature, they kick you off the plane. So I'm thinking driving is the way, and I'm not a fan of long trip driving, but I'm going to have to get used to it. And yeah, we're going to make some changes, but I think our homes have become our oasis if we're able to. But some people who live in apartments or basement apartments and they don't have a balcony, they don't have access to a backyard, I worry for them because they haven't had a chance to go out. So they definitely need to take this opportunity to get out and get some air and get the kids out.
You see, I'm big on the road trips and driving long distances. I don't mind doing that.
I know, but you have like a Winnebago or something, don't you?
Yeah, I have an RV, but I also don't mind taking a vehicle and going out for cruise.
Well, I'll maybe share stories with you when I get back out there. I'll have to, I mean, I'm used to driving for an hour because I go to London office and Windsor and Sarnia offices from here, so I would drive every day, and that's a different thing. I'm talking about like 20-hour driving. I haven't done that for a while, not since college.
Let's see here. Yeah, we can do that. Talking about Jonathan North's always talking about hockey and that he has 17 guys. Jonathan, you're going to have to get creative and just kind of chop it up so you can go 10 apiece.
Well, does the age of the team matter? Like if you had 17 old guys like me, you might need to be careful. But if it's 17 young people, knowing what the statistics are, I just don't understand why you just can't go play road hockey. We're talking probably young athletic people. What's or even just young people. There seems to be an issue with age in this disease, this illness.
Yeah, that's what I think people see a lot of. Age, and I think young people need to get out and go.
If you think of people under the age of 59, we've had 243 fatalities in the entire country. So just everyone under the age of 59 or younger, there's 243 fatalities according to the Canadian government.
Yeah,
is that something you shut the world down for?
I don't think it's anything to shut the country down for.
I mean, it's very bad for the people who passed. I'm not trying to minimize the seriousness for the 243 people, but I'm just saying that it just as people, we need to start thinking about statistics so we get hope and confidence and we get rid of frustration, and hopefully we communicate to those decision makers that we do read, we go online and we do navigate the websites to get the information that's out there, and we need to understand this. And I have to hand it to Quebec. I mean, they seem to get it. And they're not tied to any certain. They just said this is what the information is, so we're going to react accordingly. And I think that's incredibly good.
And the more people see kind of good news and progress to an end of this, do you think that how much confidence will that build up in optimism and being comfortable going on?
I'm starting to really think that people are like, on your mark, get set, go on a race. And as soon as they say go, people are going to go. And I think the change in behavior, in our profession, we talk about habits and how to change good behaviors, how to become, eat healthy or exercise or whatever the habit may be, or thinking exercises. We say it takes months, but it actually takes longer. I don't think a lot has changed. I think we're going to be perhaps the cleanliness piece and it should be more important to us. But in most cases, I think when someone says on your mark, people are going to go. I saw it today on the roads. I see it in stores. People want to shop. People want to get out and do things. And I think we're just going to it's like we press pause and then we press play. I didn't think that about 2 weeks ago, but now I'm starting to think that way.
I know people that I'm cutting out a bit, trying to limit my talking. But,
I'm usually clear, and Ben is usually a little fuzzy. So that's that's a bad joke. Ben, did you tell him all the work? Ben, we usually start at 8, but he had to get around because of a power, and he just found. I thought we weren't going to do this today, and then he says, "I got a place," and I'm thinking, how does the guy find a place to do this in 10 minutes? Because the power went out in his usual studio. So you got to give him props for doing this today. Thanks.
So, back on track. When a week
That's a nice
ago,
way to say shut up. Go ahead.
A week and 2 weeks ago, we started seeing a lot of people go out and protest. And not to talk about the protests, not to talk about rallies, but the President of the United States is going to be putting on a rally with tons of people with no, they're signing a waiver to go into that rally. When people see large groups of people getting together and doing whatever, a protest or a rally or just a large assembly of people, and nothing bad happens after, does that also build up a little bit of confidence in people that it feels safer?
I think one of the protests that we had over those unfortunate deaths, outside of those important issues, the one thought I had was this is going to be like an experiment, because we have thousands upon thousands of people who are given permission to be together. It's like you're at a football game all of a sudden, or an NHL hockey game, 10,000, 20,000 people. And more, I guess were there millions in the States? I'm not sure how many people were at some of these marches, but for the peaceful ones, when you saw them all together, you thought, okay, we're going to find out. And if there isn't horrific, hopefully not, but if there isn't a horrific issue, this tells us something, because it was almost like a forced experiment. And I don't know the exact statistics, but I know there's been spikes in people who are infected, and you would expect that, but there hasn't been, I don't think, a significant spike in hospitalizations. Am I right about that, Ben?
I think you are, but also with the more cases and the spike they're everywhere is testing as well.
Right.
So that could have been steady. We don't know, but the more they test, obviously, the more they're going to find. So that could be, even locally. We have drive-thrus now. In Wellspring, we just had drive-thru.
Well, I'm getting hopeful when I hear, like yesterday, the premier, I saw the replay. There were 22,000 tests, and 180 people in Ontario were diagnosed, but they didn't tell us how many were really sick or how many had to go to the hospital. They said out of 22,000 tests, that means they must have had a reason, or some people can be tested. You can be tested now without symptoms, I guess.
Right.
But out of 22,000 people, 180 people in Ontario or so had positive tests for COVID. I was very encouraged. I felt bad for the 180 people, but I felt very encouraged by that number. I can't even do the stats without my calculator on what percent of that population tested positive. I was very encouraged by that. I thought that is incredible. But no one seemed to say that. They kind of said, well, Toronto's still locked down. I'm thinking, I don't understand the spin sometimes. And so from a hope and a frustrated perspective, maybe it's because we think differently. But I look at that and I get very encouraged by that. I say that is really good. Out of that large a group, such a small number. And I feel hope. I think people feel hope about we're really on our way. And I think when they say things like, well, we're not sure, we may get more infections, we're probably going to have more people, obviously, but it seems like something's changing. There's just something changing for this to be happening like this.
Christina brings up something interesting that I find myself, and I don't understand. So she says, I don't understand the reason some people are resistant to hearing the good news stats. It seems every time you put out good news or things are getting better or I'm optimistic, people want to hit you with, but oh, wait for the second wave, or wait for the third wave, oh, everything's going to be bad. Just wait and see how bad it's going to be.
I know, and Christina makes a good point. I got ripped myself. I have some friends we fished together, and so when Quebec did its test of 100,000 kids, I was pretty excited about it. I said, "Listen, isn't this great? Quebec's doing this thing, and it's gonna be. They're trying it." And I got blasted by 5 people. Not like guys blast each other, but I was they were pretty upset with me. Oh, it's you're gonna go out, you're gonna be sick and all this. And I thought, no, it's just one piece of information. Let's give it a chance. They're taking a risk. They're doing certain things, and I would agree with you. I think when you bring up positives, no disrespect, because I know you probably have a Trump hat back there. Do you, Ben? Do you have one of those hats? Sorry. So when you bring it up, people automatically assume you watch Fox and you're a Trump supporter. And all you're saying is, I'm excited about this outcome. I want people to be healthy, and let's get on with it. And I think we should let's get politics out of the way, and let's just think about the good news, because there's a lot of good news right now that children have not died from this. I mean, any parent, we got to love that. No, children don't get killed from this, which is incredible.
So there's a lot of positive news and optimism. I like to hear it. I like to follow that kind of direction. I do see maybe not. Let's see here. I think depression causes negativity. I could be wrong about that. Plus, I think media has people scared.
Nicole, yeah, there's a lot of parts to depression that cause change in behavior, and it's almost like a filter. And when we talk about, you've probably heard of many people probably heard of cognitive behavioral therapy. When something happens, like say a big event like COVID or being shut down, we then have thoughts about it, and it's those thoughts about an event that then cause us to have more anxiety or feel more helpless. And I think one of the things that I find hope with is that Quebec gave us a deadline. They said in September, children are going back to school. That's definite. So we have some control over that. Parents can plan. In Ontario right now, we don't have that. We're sometimes, initially we were sitting on the edge of our seats for every 11 o'clock press conference from the prime minister coming out of his, we all live the same way place. And so, you look at that and you say, okay, what's he going to say today? Is it going to be good news? And then no. And so we didn't have that. And so we were into very, I would say, primitive survival mode, all humans. And so part of what we felt, and many of us still feel this way, is a survival mode, right? Because we were told if we go outside, we could die. And we could transmit it to our parents, and shame on you who, if you have aging parent like I do, you're going to be, so don't do it, or don't leave the house, shut your own business down, don't do it. So we were under really survival mode. And I think to go from that to all of a sudden, hey, get 10 friends and have a party is a little hard on humans, because we were being attacked over here and now we're supposed to be. So you got to give yourself some normal evolution to this. And I think we all need some time to gradually, get back to some form of what is normal now. And that's going to take a while. Be patient, particularly with your children. I mean, I don't have, children. I used to write about my kids without telling them for research and stuff, but I don't have any children that I can sort of watch and observe in my house. So I don't know what it is for you as parents, but I'm sure your children are wondering, well, wait a minute, we were locked down and you said I was going to get this flu-like thing. I would assume you probably explained that to your children that way, or some form of like the flu. What do you tell them now? How do you know you're safe? And I say you go to stats. You say in Canada, while we were shut down, and even when Quebec went back to school, 100,000 kids went back to school, no one died from COVID. You're okay. You can play.
Yeah.
Because that's what I believe. If you don't believe that, don't tell your children, but that's what I believe.
Well, I try to take the fear away from my kids and tell them all the positive stuff, and that just stress the importance of your hands, and being safe and being clean and being respectful.
Were they afraid? Can I ask, Ben, without too much detail? Like, were your kids afraid? Do you think?
I don't think they were. I don't think they were ever too afraid. They were confused a little bit because they don't understand why a school is shut down, why they can't see their friends. And I know early they were wondering, why can't I go play with my friends? There's nothing wrong with them. there's nothing wrong with us, right? So explaining that and getting around basically what's socially acceptable is what I was kind of explaining to them, and how people will kind of, it's not normal time right now. But that's kind of how I went. So I don't think my kids were scared at
Were
any
you
point.
afraid, Ben? A little bit?
I was not. The only time I was afraid is that my daughter had a cough. She wasn't feeling well, probably within the first 6 to 7 days. And, I gotta say, I got caught up in it. I was like, now I'm concerned. Like, does she have COVID-19? Right? And then I'm looking up all the symptoms, and you get reading, and you get your mind spinning. And then she was okay. Like, it just happened to be she wasn't feeling well. That's all it ended up being. So I felt much better because, I was in touch with my daughter. I'm in touch with my parents, right? So I was worried, am I a spreader now? Like
Right.
all these things that I was told and that I read, I was a little bit, I was very fearful of. I'm not fearful of it now because nothing ever developed, right? To kind of make that rational. There was a moment, probably 3 to 4 days, where I was very concerned. Uh,
Yeah, I was a little afraid too, not just for family members, but I thought, man, if I get this is a bad way to go. And then when I stopped being afraid, my kids were bugging me. I said, if you don't stop bothering me, I'm going to go lick the post office door every day. So you just leave me alone, because they were convinced, well, you're a senior, you shouldn't go. I said, no. So I think we all had periods where we were really thinking that this could be a different thing. And it's like the Walking Dead thing or something. You start thinking it's going to be a really horrific virus and change the world, and we were told all of this. And now it looks like people did what they did for all those reasons, right? And that's great. And now it's time to move on. I mean, Nicole mentioned CBT training. Tell us, Nicole, where you did it, because many people could benefit from CBT training. If probably, well, you not too many details, but if there's a place out there where they can get that, most therapists know how to do CBT now, and it's very effective.
and what exactly is CBT training?
Cognitive behavioral training is changing the way you think about an event that's happened. And some of the statements we try to focus on are life's not fair, bad things happen to good people. I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. And then there are other ways to manage the thoughts that pop in. You're driving down the street and someone cuts in front of you and you get angry. Well, you're not angry because the person cut in front of you. You're angry because what you thought about the person cutting in front of you. So to simply explain it that way, it's training yourself to manage the thoughts that happen after events occur. And it's quite effective. It can be tough sometimes to use in certain situations, because even when you know what to do, you don't want to do it, because sometimes we want to be angry, or we want to. But it's very helpful when you're dealing with anxiety and depression. It's an excellent tool that many of us need to use it in other times too. It's perspective taking, but it's also thinking differently about a problem that occurs.
It sounds to me like something like that would be very useful with how we deal with people getting in a space and following arrows, and being a little bit more patient at grocery stores and regular stores, and wherever
Yeah,
we go.
I've had to use that a lot the other day when I was in the store, and I think I told you no one was following the rules at the grocery store. And the only time I had a little emotional thing was when someone was creeping up on me when I was paying at the till, and the person was like right beside me, and it was making me nervous. And I'm not usually nervous about something. I just felt nervous about it. And I didn't say anything. I just paid and got out of there. But I started thinking, okay, she's not seeing it. She's older. She doesn't care. She's looking at her phone. She doesn't know she's walking towards me. It's not a big deal. She's got a mask. I don't care if I get sick. So that's kind of where I was thinking through the CBT thing, and then I got out of there.
Looks like Nicole got it done through Thamesville Health Team.
Awesome.
Or
Yeah, the health teams are great. Yeah, they all have social workers assigned to them, and I'm part of the Tilbury Health Team as far as I'm a client there. My doctor's there as a person, so I get to go there. So they're great places. Yeah.
Gives you strategies on how to handle panic, negative experiences. Good. Let's keep on going with it. Example, fear of being in public, gives you personal things that you like to count to 10, or think of something or have like a stress ball. Dr. Svec, what is one of the best tools, kind of like that? Is that a great example of how to use that?
Well, the good news about CBT is if you can realize what's happening. So if you once you start feeling the emotion, you're already in that cycle. So as soon as there's an event and you stop, or something happens, or it could be a thought, if you can stop it and think through it, as Nicole's talking about, then or divert yourself. She's talking about some great diversion strategies, and we do those too. There's different cognitive strategies you can use. It doesn't get to the point of anger or anxiety and so on. Because let's take anxiety. Catastrophic thinking is one of the most toughest things. So, as we were all mainly thinking during COVID, the world's coming to an end. What are we going to do? The businesses will never come back. Our jobs won't come back. That's very catastrophic. And we were actually told that by many people, which sort of fed into that. And so now we need to let our sort of protection systems back off a little bit and say, no, it's not going to be like that. We're going to be okay. We're getting through this as we got through SARS and other things, and things are coming back. So the thinking that Nicole talks about is very important. Distraction, getting away from those thoughts, and some perspective taking, which is why the statistics I keep bringing up, because for me and for people I talk to, that's very hopeful to see that truth and see that truth that's there. You can't, it's not political, it's just the truth. Children have not been killed by COVID.
Let's see here. My grandson's soccer team club went back to practicing this Monday. Social distancing rules in place. 8 kids per group. Kids and parents were all cooperative and happy to get back to the game.
That's a great story, Kathy. Love it.
Yeah.
I heard in some provinces, Little League football is coming back. Children are actually playing Little League football, touch football, flag football, and tackle football. Somehow they're bringing back for children. I mean, being creative and finding ways to do it, to give the children an opportunity to play, and realizing in the back of your mind the risk levels as a parent. And if you're not comfortable with it, you obviously wouldn't send your child off to do it. But, keep reading those statistics, keep looking at it, because it's really important as a parent to see what your true risks are for your children to get involved.
I actually heard about a group doing road hockey, but they did it with lines, and it reminded me of, how the foosball table is, where the twisty things. It
Yep.
reminded me a game of that. Like they only had a space they could go, and they have to go up and down and pass it. So
Yeah.
I thought that was creative, interesting.
And that goes to, I have a lot of faith in people. I really think 95% is probably 99% of Canadians. If you just tell them the truth about the statistics, they will do things properly. You don't have to micromanage them. You don't need a snitch line. You don't need to give them tickets. You just need to say, hey, here's what you need to do to be healthy. And if you're in this group, you probably shouldn't go out for a while, because here are the risks for you. And let's treat people with respect. And I'm hoping that's one thing that comes out of this. We learn to respect, but I think it's gone the other way as far as government's respect of us. They think that they need to tell us things. It's like every once in a while, until this came along, the main thing I heard our local health expert tell us was that when it was 40 degrees, it was too hot to go outside. And when it was minus 30, it's too cold to go outside. Well, my mom taught me, before you get dressed, just go out and check outside, and then put the right clothes on to fit what's going on outside. So I think that still works today. And so I think we've lost that ability as to be independent, in the sense of making decisions based on the risks that we see, which we do all our lives every day, particularly as we talked yesterday about entrepreneurs. So I think the concern is there's been a lack of respect by the political group to the citizens. They think we're all going to follow when we're all idiots or something. I don't understand that. And that's just a personal comment, because it kind of bothers me when we see the science and people don't seem to want to think that we can read it too.
What are you doing now? Like, have you been out lately? Have you?
That's a personal question. What are you
Well,
talking about?
like, have you went out and experienced like a patio anywhere or anything like?
I haven't had it. I've been dying to go. I haven't gone to a patio, but I've gone out more to stores. I was starting to buy in stores. As soon as they said we could go curbside, I was trying to local and Blenheim buy some things, and I'm buying more. I'm going out more. I'm focusing more, like on the business side. We're doing some construction and different things, because that's getting back to normal. I'm really trying to be, I think, more as we talked about CBT, to really think it through. And for me, maybe that's why I bring it up, the statistics matter to me. Like, it really matters to me to know what the true risk of something is, and then if I choose to take that risk. So I am doing more of that. I'm doing more outdoor stuff. I'm doing more with honeybees because, as you know, I have a wildflower bee farm, and I'm loving that. Um, so I'm getting more involved in things like you talk about backyards. I have a 50-acre backyard, so I'm really lucky, and I get to go out and see everyday wildflowers. Every day I learn about 2 new wildflowers, and I would have never done that before COVID. So that's how it's kind of changed. How I'm doing more loafing as you used to. I work more than I ever did, but I'm also loafing more. So that's what I do every day.
That's awesome. Um,
I'm lucky.
I also, talking about gyms, the gyms aren't open yet, but I did see a local gym in Chatham. They have at the side, at the back of their building, they actually have a nice patio and actually a workout area. And they had 8 people, all incredibly separated, all with
Yep.
their own equipment, all done perfectly. It was a great example. And I always think that these examples are what people need to see how things can be done safely. So I just wanted to say what an incredible job they did at Peak Athletics.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So,
And we need more of those stories, right?
yeah, and the people were happy. Their clients were happy. They were working out. They were getting fit. They were getting healthy. What I think that's the number one thing we can think about doing as we move forward is taking actions to improve our own health and stay at the top of our health as long as we can.
Yeah, we're going to need some more statistics from the government on those of us in my age range, say, who were hurt by COVID. What were some of the things we need to do to make that if it comes back so that we're healthier? So was it, did I weigh too much? Did I have type 2 diabetes? What are the risk factors so that I don't get at risk next time and I know to be extra cautious? And I think once we have more of that information, we'll feel more confident, less frustrated, and make those decisions that we can make as adults for ourselves and our families. And that's all we're asking. I think hopefully they'll give us that. I don't know why we can't get that information.
Yeah, I don't know, but a lot of what I've read about the people that it affects the most, I was actually talking to my brother. Him and I were working out a lot, going to the gym every day and trying to get fit every day. We started that in late November, and we both got sick in February. And who knows what it was? It was probably the flu. But I was talking to him, and I was like, you know what? I think we got lucky that if we did get something like that, it got us when we were at our healthiest,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
that may have been a defense in some way, or helps you overcome these things. So,
Well, I still do the 7 day a week workout. Like, so I get I get up very early. Like, I'm sleeping until 5, Ben. I'm turning that. So I get up at 5, get some basics done, and then I do an exercise. I work out on the treadmill, cardio. I do cardio, prescriptive exercise every day, and then my brain's crazy all day. So I do it every morning, and sometimes if I have stress, I do it at the end of the day. So I do 2 a day. But it's now become like brushing my teeth, and COVID did that to me because it was still, oh, I got to go do this. For some reason, somehow during the last 3 months, I broke through to be like, it's just a habit. I don't even, it's just, you just do it, right? I just, so that's been really good too. And I think it's going to fine tune. Hopefully, we won't change some of these behaviors when we get back to full normalcy.
yeah, Kathy was saying, I'm pretty sure everyone showed up for age group from ages 8 to 13 at the soccer. So that's good.
That's great, Kathy. That's fantastic.
Shows confidence. And
We're going to need more programs for kids, Ben.
oh yeah, I'm tomorrow. Another day of getting fit. I call it the Fit Kids training with Ben.
Cheryl Ann wants to know if I got perch yet. I'll tell you the story. I went to Mindful. They had fresh perch, so I cooked some. And I cooked a couple pounds of perch. I used, I'll tell you the quick recipe. My wife has celiac, so I had some gluten-free breadcrumbs, the usual eggs, rice flour, used sunflower oil, cooked them up with some French fries in one of those air fry things where you only put a little bit of sunflower oil and it makes your French fries, but you don't cook them in grease. I forget what that's called. But anyway, I did that, and I did get my perch, but I'm thinking of maybe going tomorrow to a patio somewhere and having perch. That's what my goal is. Thanks for asking, Cheryl.
I miss the little things. My girls play travel baseball. We are normally going to a tournament every weekend. Not this year. We are home as all the tournaments are canceled this summer. Sad.
Yeah, there's got to be a way to recreate something like that because I know what you mean. Our kids all played minor baseball, and it was quite amazing. Those weekend, trips to just places between here and Sarnia or here in London, the small towns. I think if you can do some. We often talk about doing a new tradition. When we have an unfortunate loss and then there's a holiday coming, I've told people at Christmas, order Chinese food and do something different. Because, and maybe this is a time you do a different tradition. You start a new summer tradition with your children. If you can't do the baseball or the hockey or whatever it may be, start something new. Like make that a goal right now. And they'll never forget it. A new tradition of summer that you do, whatever that may be.
Okay, I did a lot of therapy, years worth of, including CBT after a devastating car accident and losing my spouse. Your institute, Dr. Svec, the help and knowledge I was given has helped me through this COVID-19 immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. That's very nice of you to say.
That's very nice.
We've been very lucky to help 13,000, I think 200 some people in our clinics, and it's a gift to be able to help. And thank you, Carolyn, for saying that. Appreciate that.
Fit Kids is great for kids. Excellent job, me. Evan loves it. Yeah, it is. It's very fun. The kids are loving that program.
Ben, how are you at taking compliments? Are you good at taking compliments?
I enjoy them. I don't think I know.
Are you good at taking them?
What do you mean?
Well, I see. That's a good answer. I've always had a hard time. I won't push it anymore. I've always had a hard time taking compliments. I had to learn to take compliments. Like if someone says to you, "I really like the socks you have on today," the appropriate answer is, "Thank you. I like them too." I had to work to be able to say that. That's very hard. I don't know. For many of us, it's hard to take a compliment.
Yeah.
We say, "Oh, it's not that good," or it just sucks. I got them at Walmart. I got these actually in Blenheim at Ford McIntyre Menswear. The socks I have on. But I'm just saying, taking a compliment is something you have to teach your children too, because it's not like you're bragging, but you have to receive the compliment. There's nothing worse than someone giving you a compliment and you push it back. They say, "Geez, I really like this salad you made," and you go, "Oh, it's nothing. It's no." You've pushed it back, so you've got to say, "Thank you. I like this salad too. Thank you for the compliment."
I guess I think a lot of times you don't want to feel like you're bragging.
Yeah, you're not bragging. You're just thanking them for the compliment, and you're acknowledging it. I think, and that's I have one of the challenges when I work with entrepreneurs and I'm coaching successful people. It's no problem for them to get through the lousy stuff, the really bad stuff. They know how to get through all that. It's how to accept success, how to accept. And people say, "Come on, that's not a problem." It is one of the biggest problems is how to accept when things are going well.
It sounds like we're going to have an entire whole episode dedicated to that subject.
I don't know if that makes sense to people listening, but for many people, we know how to handle the bad stuff because we've had a lot of it. But when it comes to something good happening, we either can't accept it or we think, "Yeah, this is good right now, but just wait because I know something's around the corner." And that's how. Go ahead, sorry.
We're going to do some training here. Kathy, thank you very much. Glad Evan loves it. Is that good? Is that good?
That's great. Thank you, Kathy. I love it too. It's a great program. I love working with the kids. You love doing it. I got to ask you, you do all these programs for kids. That's fantastic.
Well, I enjoy it. My son and my daughter came out for the first time on yesterday to do the program with us. And I really enjoy that. And it's fun. I actually enjoy doing it, so it doesn't seem like I'm doing it anymore. Right?
Yeah, well, I'm glad as this is our last one, I'm glad you had us do this because I think this is helpful, and I think we've helped a few people, and it's been great, and I'm glad if we're not needed anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But it seems like it's just unlimited on can help people. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a never-ending list. New problems develop daily by the minute. Let's see here. I can say through all this, I've seen and experienced community kindness. I've seen people promoted as shell and reach out for support, and it did renew my belief in good people. That's good.
One of the things we have never talked about is the other side of this. Sometimes on these kinds of interchanges, we may say something critical, or I know you were upset about a few people, and I might have said a few things about politicians. But in the end, I know you're very competitive, and you played sports. I played sports. we've always been able, you can have a scrap and then sit down and have a pop with someone, because there's no hard feelings when the whistle goes or the game's over. And I learned that very early in playing sports. And I've always but not everybody does it that way, Ben. So even though we may be, and so I think the challenge sometimes is to be more sensitive to the fact that, um, even though we're being honest and truthful, and this is how we feel, and we're passionate about a cause, not the other side. And I wish people could be more like that. Say, okay, we had a disagreement yesterday, and I'd love to have a non-alcoholic buck of beer with the premier and talk about why he had his family over on Mother's Day, and I couldn't. But that's another story. I still respect the person, and I still, I have no issues there. But why do you think it is it's hard for people, especially when you get older, to just let that go and just say, I really have no issues with you. That's over. We just had a little disagreement. Let's have a pop together.
I actually find that the more that time goes on, I actually get easier with, you know, everybody and their opinions. But you got to keep in mind, I sit down with a lot of politicians, liberal, conservative, in the middle, left, right, and what I've learned is that what I teach my kids is if you take everything the liberals do and the conservatives do and everything, rather than just be handcuffed to listening to one side all the time, you're going to have more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's helped me. Um, Meeting, and my social media has actually helped me the most because I've taken, like for my son, for example, he's met the Prime Minister of Canada and the President of the United States, both controversial in some way. They're incredibly hated by so many people, but
Mm-hmm.
also loved by so many people. And it's what I've learned is that it's just easier to listen to people and how they do it, and then you try to see how they come to that decision,
Mm-hmm.
right? But really, take action towards things that you feel you have to take action for. And if you're not passionate and you don't think it means so much, then lay back and let somebody else do that type of work. But for me, it's been a learning experience every day. Talking to all the politicians and seeing the political angles and listening to almost the backlash of everybody and accepting it
Yeah.
and moving forward.
Well, this has been good. I've learned so much from the people that have logged on with us on, Mondays and Tuesday nights. You never stop learning. That's one thing, you never stop learning. We mentioned gut microbes, and today I was talking to someone thinking about what happens to the gut microbes when you get COVID. Have they, and my test kits did come from Europe. So we're going to be doing gut microbe testing. I talked about that in brain injuries and stuff. And I finally got the testing has come in, and we're going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks and doing some other stuff with that. So you never stop learning. I mean, I'm always amazed that, I'm a lot older than you are, and every day you learn more. It's like you just keep learning stuff because we don't know a lot about a lot of things, and it's very helpful and the people have been great coming in and telling us, what's going on with them, and so we get a sense of what we needed to try to help. And I really appreciate the people out there for doing this.
Here, thank you so much, guys. You have helped so much. We should do a show once a month in the future. I think we'll have to get together and do some stuff. But first, I think we have to go out and have a tasty beverage together. Now that we're allowed, right?
We should do one, eh? We should do a show, and we'll just sit. Well, I'll have non-alcoholic, but we'll sit and talk. And yeah, it's not that I can't have a beer. I just the science on alcohol in the brain has been so striking to me that I just yeah, we can talk about that for half an hour about
Well,
concussions and brain.
I find that myself, I make poor decisions after drinking alcohol.
You're so young though, Ben. You're a kid, buddy. Sorry, I got to say that because I'm old, but you're very young. I think it's a whole different thing. I think that one of the things that we've learned too is that it's all about perspective, and I hope the people that have these press conferences understand the power of what they can do when you have a captive audience locked up in their house and you make statements. They have incredible impact on people, on our mental health, and so the hope is very important. And I saw more of that as we progressed near the end from our provincial leader, and I think that's really important. We need hope. We need deadlines. We need to understand and treat the public with respect because 99.9% get it and they'll do the right thing. I mean, I've watched it in stores when we started this. I was amazed at the patience of people the helping of people, how people helped. My mom has care in her house, and the incredible compassion of her workers in her home, how they take care and we're safe, and stop me from getting into the house. You can't get in here, and all the things that people do out there is so incredible that we've experienced. And let's keep doing that, even though the worst thing is we just get back right on our wheel again and we just start pedaling. We don't change anything. We have to keep being. Someone mentioned the kindness, so we have to keep doing it.
But when given the situation to have to rise up, do most humans rise up to the challenges?
Well, I think there's two levels to that. I think there's people, everyone's pretty much a leader in their home. I think someone talked about with their kids in the backyard and creating every leadership. I saw a lot of leadership among people in their homes. I didn't see as much leadership among our leaders. I think the leadership was really demonstrated lately. They got better at it because they've never been through a crisis all on them, right? They've never, but I think the premier improved incredibly. By the end of it, he looked like a leader, I think. Politics aside, and the prime minister is getting better. And I think leadership is on an individual basis, and every parent leads their children by their examples of what they do. And I'm quite proud of people because I think people have gone back to, one of the things I really like is people had no problem saying no to their children during this, and they got in the habit of saying no, you can't go out. Why? Because you can't. I said so. I'm your parent, and that's what you need to continue to do. So if you believe it's right for your child until a certain age, you have a right and the power as a parent to say no, because I think it's not in your best interest, and I'm deciding. We're not negotiating. This isn't something you have power over. And parents did that to keep their children safe. And I think we need to take that power that parents now have and continue it beyond COVID. So set rules, set structure, expectations. Don't be afraid to say no, because your children, the character part that's built with your children during this time period is incredible.
Um, so off topic, how can we get the city to install a water fountain by the skate park for the kids to refill their water bottles? I'm going to take a little piece of that one. And
Yep.
how we talk about alcohol and the negative effects. How much positive effects of drinking water? Do you talk about that, or do you ever think about that?
Well, I can give you a personal one. I went to a cardiologist who looked at my results and said, "You're not drinking enough water." And I said, "What are you talking about? It's just like, you're a cardiologist." He goes, "No, look, you're not." And he's right. I wasn't drinking. I thought coffee counted. And at that time, I was drinking 6 or 7 cups a day. And I thought, well, I'm drinking six. He says, no. Anyway, the point is, I think the best, I don't know if it's possible. Can you get a private water company to sponsor it? Is there a way to, it'll be like $150,000 water fountain if we get the municipality to do it, for crying out loud.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very important that the kids have access to water, and I think what she's saying is A&W charges for a cup of water and won't refill it.
Wow.
Especially during COVID, there's different rules. Um, but yeah, access to the water fountain close by, because when I ran by there the other day and drove by a couple times, it's a pack. And not everybody brings a bottle of water with them. I certainly don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Well, it's
But
really changed, right? When we played sports, if we were good, we got water. And if we weren't, we didn't get water. And
absolutely.
now we realize that water should be available ample at all times, active as a child or as an adult. So however we can make that happen. I mean, if it's, I hate to say it, but isn't it a municipal skate park? Shouldn't they provide that? Shouldn't we
It is.
provide that? I mean, isn't that
It is.
our,
It
isn't
is a
that a
municipal
government
skate
thing?
park. I just don't know how they go about making it. Depending if you have to dig water lines and put, that gets costly real
Well,
quick.
it took them 6 days to run a water line to the plowing match.
Right.
Don't you think they could put a little fountain at the skate park in a few days? Like, come on, this isn't like we're not building. Come on.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be able to do that. And I'm surprised. That's very very used. I mean, it's a good thing. And yeah, I think what
That's a good
start.
point, Kathy. I think you're going to have to just have children bring their own. I guess. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know what else you can do.
there's a fountain in the soccer field by the new pavilion, but they removed it. Um, I'd like to know why they removed it, because a lot of damage gets done, a lot of vandalism So when you put a water fountain up, are you almost guaranteeing a couple water fountains and how much damage? I'd like to see what kind of how that goes. Because there
Yeah,
was one.
that's unfortunate that they wouldn't have security cameras or, you know, a way to stop that from happening.
Absolutely. So this has been great. We've I think how many weeks did we do? Did we make it to like 10 weeks or
I have no idea,
more?
Ben. I have no idea.
So I don't know. We're going to have to continue doing something, or we'll probably do this once in a blue moon or once in a while. But definitely,
It'd be fun to do one like in a month, like someone suggested, to see how people have adjusted since and where we've been at, and
yeah,
we should get together, you and I, and just have a talk with these folks if they want.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is probably the first time we're just slightly under an hour.
Well, listen, Ben, I want to thank you personally for this. You do a great job. You're a great host, and hopefully we've helped a few people. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And be safe, but remember those statistics.
Yes.
It's okay to go out and play road hockey and have your kid play sports and do all those things.
Well, Dr. Svec, thank you for everything, and
Thank you, Ben.
everybody that has watched us, and been a part of them, and messaged, and commented, and questioned, and participated in any which way, even just watching. Uh, I appreciate it, and I know you appreciate it. It's been
Very much.
It's been very fun. I'm glad we were able to put this together for so many weeks. It was great.
Thanks for doing it, Ben. Take care, buddy.
All right, thank you.
See you, folks. Bye-bye.
Okay.